You know, I'd just like to thank everybody for giving me a couple minutes to speak, and to Tom and to Ray. That was great. You guys are warriors. All of you are warriors. We've been in this for a long time. And, you know, we're battle weary, no doubt about it, all of us. But we can't stop it. We just can't do it. And Vince was eloquently telling you about our lawsuit. And it's so important. The problem is that government watches everything that we do. So if they see we're running out of cash, they know they got us just like this, and they can shut us down and squeeze us through, you know, delays and delays, and bankrupt us from getting justice. We can't let that happen. We just can't. And it's a tough thing for, you know, ourselves to ask for people to give money. It's, you know, it's really tough. Everybody's hurting. I get it. But if we don't do this, we're going to be hurting even worse. Did, you know, any of you experience your bank accounts frozen that aren't in lawsuits here? No? Well, I can tell you, you know, Tom, Vince, myself, and about 256 other people had them frozen. And it's really tough to put into words what that felt like. You had no recourse. You had no action that you could do to know if your money is ever going to come back, and if it is, when. You got nothing. Like, we were stuck in Ottawa with no money. I live in New Brunswick now. Thankfully, some nice people give you some cash to drive home. Middle of winter. And, you know, it's just one of those things that if they want you to leave, they take away your money, so you have no money to leave.
Yeah.
Must have been a real, you know. Yeah, that's government, you know. Yeah, government logic.
Could you hold a sword while you say that?
So, you know, it's a long road, you know, that where we started to where we're going. I just want to correct something too. Tom said I'm a combat veteran for Afghanistan. No. I was deployed in a different theater of conflict, and that was in Cyprus, and that was before the Afghan situation. So I just want to clear that up. And, I don't want to be accused of stolen valor, so.
Right, of course.
Which I was accused of in Ottawa, by the way. They said I was a phony, I was a fake, that my medals weren't real. But, you know, just to kind of go to Ottawa, and Tom mentioned how the veterans took down the fence. And I think that was pretty significant in the eyes of the public right across the country, because how can you stand for freedom if the monument to those who gave us the freedoms we have is surrounded by a fence? Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. So they said we were desecrating it, that we were tearing down the fences. If you actually saw the video, we took it carefully, stacked it neatly, put all the bolts so they could find everything that they needed, and guarded it 24 hours a day, shoveled it, and made sure that nothing happened to it. And like Tom had mentioned, the police, they backed off, thankfully. And I gotta be truthful. The Ottawa Police Service in the beginning of the convoy, they were very respectful. They were really, you know, just keeping an eye on things. They weren't aggressive. They weren't, you know, accusing us of anything. In fact, you know, you speak to them one-on-one, they thought it was great. They loved it. They really did. But then they pulled those guys out, and then we know what happened. And, you know, I think this is probably the most historical moment in Canadian history. The most historical, non-violent revolution, I guess you could call it, in Canadian history. And it will be talked about for generations long after we're gone. And all of us, whether you were there or not, were part of that, and you were supporting that. And you can pat yourself on the back that's saying, you stood up in times where it would have been easier just to say, well, I'll just go along with what everybody's doing. And to have the courage not to do that and, you know, criticize what's going on and saying it's wrong, that takes courage, and all of you displayed courage. And it's something that you wonder why some people show courage and others don't. there's no formula for that. It's something in your DNA. It's just something that people possess, and in times where there's conflict or difficulty, that gene that you have, or that background comes forward. And it's one of those things that you don't know is there until it shows up. And I saw some of the strongest people come from all across the country and come to support what was going on. And you know, it wasn't me, Vince, Tom. We were there to help those people that came. It's not about us. We just happened to be there and assisting in any way that we could, just like all of you were assisting from home or being there in Ottawa. So I think, where does it go from here? I wish I knew. All I know is that we can't stop. We can't go backwards. We're going to lose some battles. We really will. But don't let that discourage you that we can't achieve our objective. You know, in a military sense, you have to know when to hold your position, regroup, take account of your losses, look at what you have so that you can move forward to the next battle. And unfortunately, the battle for us in Canada is not a kinetic battle. It's a battle of ideology and a battle in the courts. And that's where we are. And I know all of you are tired. We're all tired. We are. And you feel like giving up sometimes. Is this worth it? Should I just throw in the towel? Well, that's the point. You know, it's kind of like a marathon. You hit the wall, you know, and it's like, okay, I could stop right here and just go on with my life, or I can push myself just that little bit more and get the energy and strength to keep going. And that's where, depending on your friends and people in your circle of influence and your community, that's where your strength comes from, because nobody can make this alone. You can't do it. You'll fail. It takes support of everybody. So I don't want to go on anymore, because I think all the main points were covered with our case and everything. And I like to think, you know, that we ended up here through a series of historical accidents. We really did. We had no idea what the end game would be for us. And we're far from the finish line yet. And I said this last night too, and I think this is an analogy that will work for everybody, is we're kind of like relay racers, and each of us have a baton right now, and we're running as fast as we can to get to the finish line. But at some point, you have to pass the baton to the next person, and they have to carry it. And wherever that point is, you'll know when it's time that you need to pass the baton. It may not happen in our time where we see the results of what we do. We could be long gone from this world. We don't know. We never know when our last day is. So it's so important that we leave a legacy to others, so that history shows that we fought for something that was really important. And this is really, really important, because we are really being taken over by an ideology that doesn't fit with us. And it's not something that we want to live under, to be controlled by in every way in our lives. So thank you for letting me talk. I don't mean to leave you with I'm not trying to depress you, but I want to give you that message of hope, because it's so easy to think, I can't do anything, I can't move forward, I feel paralyzed. No, there's thousands of us across the country, and okay, family and friends might have deserted us, but you have a new family and new friends that will never desert you. They'll have your back for